Your hands are too small for those gloves.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie, and today we are back with another Mukbang. Woo! Today we have Red Lobster. I haven't had Red Lobster in so long. I don't think I had it since I moved back, which is crazy. So we're eating Red Lobster today. We've got their fish and chips, which I've never seen a fried fish that freaking big. That's like the size of somebody's. Yeah, exactly. We got the cheddar biscuits. We have the Kung Pao lobster noodles. We've got the coconut shrimp, the lobster linguine. We have a juicy bacon burger, more cheddar. This is the loaded mashed potatoes with lobster and cheese sauce. This is their sad excuse of a pizza, though. I do have my complaints about this one. How is this a pizza? In what it looks like a scallion pancake, which honestly should be a pizza. Put some chili oil on top as the marinara.
Yeah, how about you make that?
I'm gonna make some scallion.
You create that.
Yes. And I'm gonna open up a little restaurant. It's gonna be called Stephanie's Scallion Sexy Titties. Or something like that. I haven't really worked out the marketing yet. Then we also have the brownie, a cake, some dip, I don't really know. But let me tell you about my biggest fear in public. Since we're talking about scary things, we're talking about the horror stories. My biggest fear in public restrooms is that I don't properly lock the stall for some reason. And someone is walking by, checking to see if it's empty. And with the slightest little push, the slightest little gush of air, the door comes swinging in and exposes me. Pants around my ankles, just so uncomfortable. I would have to legally change my name and never appear in public. But you know what's worse than that? If you don't even bother to close the door, everyone just walks by and they can see what's going on in your stall. Who wants that?
No one.
Well, did you know that's what's happening when you go online without using a VPN? If I didn't use ExpressVPN on a daily basis across all of my devices, my internet service provider could keep a log of every single thing that I do online. They could even sell that data to advertisers if they so pleased, if they were in a silly, goofy mood. I mean, it's honestly pretty scary. Just read one article about big tech companies mining your data, tracking your searches, your messages, your video history. It's a lot. It's not even considering the fact that whenever you're in a public place using Wi-Fi, airports, campus Wi-Fi, Starbucks, even hotel Wi-Fi, you're exposing yourself to anyone that really wants to know what's going on. So let ExpressVPN do the work. You know how every device has a unique IP address. When you use ExpressVPN, your connection gets rerouted and replaces it with one of theirs. They've got servers in over 94 different countries, so you could appear to be from any number of them. And all of your data goes through this secure encrypted tunnel and it can't be seen. Not by hackers, not by your internet service provider, not even by ExpressVPN. And if you're like, I like to live my life on the edge, I don't care. Well, let me tell you about Netflix. Yeah. So having a Netflix account without using ExpressVPN is paying full price for Disney, and you can only ride that one teacup ride, nothing else. Don't even think about Space Mountain. Don't even think about it. Yeah, don't be that person. Netflix and other countries have so many shows and movies that are not available in the US, and with ExpressVPN, with the same Netflix account, you can start watching them too. All you have to do is switch your location to the country of your choosing. Remember, ExpressVPN has servers in 94 different countries, and start watching right now. I am hooked on The World of the Married. This was the highest rated K-drama in Korea in 2020. I just started, it's so good. Just switch your ExpressVPN over to Korea and watch it. Or A Hard Day, which is just captivating from beginning to end. Like plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. Just switch your VPN over to Spain. And right now, if you go to expressvpn.com/bis, you can find out how to get 3 months for free. That's expressvpn.com/bis to find out how you can get 3 months free. So stay safe out there. And thank you ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's video, and let's get into the food. Okay, I'm excited. I haven't had this in so long. Wow, where do we start? Where do you want to start?
I mean, it's like a buffet.
I gotta start with the cake.
I'm gonna go with the noodle.
Really?
I'm sorry, something's going on with me.
Really?
Okay?
You gotta
Which
go for
noodle
the
is it?
dessert?
Oh, the lobster noodle.
Oh, the lobster.
Oh, you want that one?
The cake is so good.
I was looking at this one.
Wow,
Yeah.
smells so good. You know, I think the last time I tried lobster was like 2 years ago, for real.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you had lobster with us.
No, Red Lobster.
Wait.
Oh.
Yeah, we did.
That was good.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Here,
I on this pizza, but it's really good.
you take this.
Oh,
Here, then.
So buttery, I love
You
it.
take this.
Wow,
thank you, Dad. Whose daddy is he?
My dad.
So good.
I feel like all these brands are doing a Kung Pao spaghetti. Like, I know Cheesecake Factory has one, California Pizza Kitchen, and now Red Lobster. Who started it?
It's delicious. Probably Panda Express started it.
It tastes like lo mein.
Wait, Panda does have it.
No, it tastes like lo mein though. It's so good. Okay, let me try
Look at this.
this creamy one. Wow.
Dip it with this.
Mmm. Mmm. Mmm.
Mmm.
That is so good. Mashed potatoes.
You gotta try with this. I
What
promise.
is that? Some sort of dip?
I feel like it's like a.
Can I do my shrimp in there?
Yeah, I think it's like a sauce.
Look at this giant piece of lobster. Wow. Okay, we just dipped it.
Big bite. Wow.
Mmm. I'm so impressed.
Wow.
Oh, dipping. You're so smart. Look at you. What the heck? I need to dip it.
It's good?
Yes. Dan, what is the scariest thing to ever happen to you?
Scariest thing.
Yeah. Maybe your car accident?
No. Oh, that was pretty scary too.
Okay.
Like after you watch a scary movie, well, at least for me, I picture like demons and like
Oh, yeah.
ghosts. Even if you don't want to think about it, it just comes to your mind. And then sometimes you just can't get that away from your mind. And I feel like I'm getting possessed. But I'm not. But like, it feels that way.
You know, my scariest thing is I keep thinking about is when I was young. I used to live in this like really old, shabby place. I swear to God, there's these spiders in the house.
Hate it.
They're the size of my hand. I told you about this, babe.
That's like tarantula.
Yes, but they're 6 legs. They're not 8 legs. I swear to God.
That's
They're
weird.
these giant
Yeah.
spiders with 6 legs and they're just crawling in the shadow, in the corners.
You sure that's not crab?
Crab has 8 legs, bro.
Oh, really?
Wait, why does it matter that they have 6 legs? Does it add to the creepiness?
Yeah, because
Why?
Usually has 8,
usually they have 8 legs.
which is weird. Maybe it got, cut.
Spider always has 8 legs, right? But in my memory, there are 6 legs. I always think about it. I'm like, so whenever I picture like a demon or some creepy ass animals,
That
getting
was
paranoid.
creepy. That was creepy.
I'm getting really scared.
They're 6 legs. They're giant, just crawling around in the corners.
So what you
And
do?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm like having just a bad dream or that's actually real. You know what I mean? Like I have questions. Is that real or am I making stuff up?
Well-
Because I was a kid, you know?
I think it's real, but you just want it to be fake,
Yep.
so it'll be less scary.
Oh, you should ask your sister later,
Maybe she
though.
remembers that.
One time I almost got kidnapped.
What?
In
Wow.
Korea?
Okay, I really almost got kidnapped in Korea. You guys have heard that story a million times. I think this is the first time I'm telling this one. When I was in Korea, I met this one guy, and he was obviously a million years old and a predator, might I add. Okay, I was freaking like 13 at the time. I think the dude was like at least 20. He wanted to meet me before I left to go back to America. He told me to meet him at this desolated, isolated park at like 5 in the morning.
Heck,
because he said it
what?
was before work. And I think about that time all the time. I
Did
think
you
about
go?
it. No, of course not.
She's,
Yeah.
she's here.
No, I didn't
Why?
go.
Why didn't you want to go?
Because my radars were like, that's creepy.
So you fell off.
Yeah, because
Okay.
5 in the morning, like,
And
that
an older
doesn't make
guy?
sense. Yeah. It was so weird. I mean, I thought he was cute. I thought we could definitely have a future because when you're 13, you think you have a future with everybody. I definitely thought so. But 5 in the morning? Come on, that's weird. And I think about that time all the time. I'm thinking, what would have happened if I had gone? I feel like it would have been some sort of lifelong trauma. Maybe I wouldn't even be here today. Who freaking knows?
I feel like it's common, like, well, I'm not too sure, but I hear a lot of like celebrities in Korea that talk about like the girl celebrities, right? Almost getting kidnapped. There was one instance where like taxi with no license plate try to like get the girl to come in from the hagwon, which is like a tutor, but then she didn't go. Wow, she went, it's gone. Like,
Yeah.
it's over.
So I asked you guys to submit your craziest horror stories. I'm gonna leave a link to that Google Doc right there, or Google Drive, or what you know what I'm talking about. So let's start with the stories. Story number 1. These are anonymous, so I'm not gonna say any names. Haunted sleepover. I was 10 and I had a sleepover with 3 of my older teenage cousins. We decided to pull an all-nighter. It was around 1 a.m. when I decided to play board games, but before that, we go to the kitchen to get snacks and drinks. We're trying to be as quiet as possible because my parents and my grandmother were sleeping. We also made sure to clean up our messes because my mom is Hispanic and she would have found the dirty kitchen. We would have woken up to a swift chancla, a flip-flop, smacking down on you. We gather every ounce of junk food from the kitchen. We head back to my room, close the door behind us. We're opening the bags of chips and the popcorn, pouring our drinks, setting up what we thought was going to be an intense game of Clue when we start hearing plates clattering in the kitchen. We all freeze thinking we were too loud and I just woke up my parents and now we're going to get in trouble. We're all sitting still waiting for my mom to bust open through the door, yell at us with a belt in her hand, but the clattering stops and my mom never comes in. So after a few moments of silence, we convince ourselves, oh, it just must have been something outside. So we start setting up our little game, and one of my cousins makes a joke that probably wasn't that funny, but we were already so tired and we giggle and cry, laugh uncontrollably. And as we start to calm down, we do the first roll of dice. And we hear an intense slamming of kitchen cabinets. The sound resonates through my house, making the walls vibrate like if someone was angrily opening and closing them repeatedly. And we all quieted down, trying to figure out who or what was in the kitchen. I thought it was my grandma looking for a midnight snack. She did that often, but she wouldn't slam every cabinet late at night. I poked my oldest cousin and I told her, go check if my grandma's up. She gets up to crack open the door, and the second she does, we hear footsteps coming down the hall to my room as if someone is running full speed towards us. My grandma is 78. There is no way she's gonna start sprinting like a dog with zoomies in the middle of the night.
What?
We begin whisper screaming and we all run to the door to shut it as my oldest cousin is frozen in fear. And at this point, I'm hyperventilating. My cousins are trying to tell me everything's gonna be okay, but every single one of us was on the verge of tears. We lock the door, turn off the lights as if this was gonna stop any intruders. But like, same. I feel like I know my house at night, but you don't. I have the advantage.
What?
Because I know the layout of my house.
So you have like a secret room and secret
You know,
entrance.
exactly, and I know exactly what door leads to what, where I put things. Like, you could easily trip over something that's gonna make some noise, whereas I know where all my bullshit and clutter is. So it is smart, right? Would you guys, if there was an intruder in your house, would you turn off all the lights, right?
Yeah, probably. Because
Really? That just makes it more creepy. You turn on the lights so nobody can hide.
But it'll be harder for the intruder to find you.
You know what's really scary? This house has a really sensitive security system. When it was thundering, I guess like the thunder set off a motion sensor outside, like a little light thing. Full alarms. Our bedroom is set up with the light flashes on and off. When I was there, and it's screaming, burglar! The lights are flashing on it. It was terrifying. Okay, anyway. The same older cousin that opened the door calls her boyfriend who lived 2 streets down. And by this time, it's 2 a.m. and we're begging for him to come over to check the outside of the house because my bedroom window wasn't facing the street. So we couldn't see if anyone was parked out front. As a typical dude attitude, he thinks we're lying and being dramatic, and he hangs up on 4 girls in a possible life-threatening situation. I hope she broke up with him. I hope she broke up with him. As my cousin tries to dial him back, the noises in the kitchen pick back up. The noises grow louder and stronger. It sounded like multiple people were coming, destroying the kitchen, glass being thrown against the walls, doors slamming, the front and back door being slammed open and closing, and footsteps. So many footsteps. Like, people are doing laps in the living room. The footsteps would get close to the door as if whatever it was wasn't sure if it should come in and then walk away, but then just as quickly the steps would return. And at this point, we're all screaming and crying, trying to barricade the door with pillows and blankets and beanbag chairs, as if that's gonna protect us.
Beanbag chairs.
It's like the softest
Pillows.
Hello.
Y'all couldn't get up and move a desk.
Or chair?
Yeah. Does that chair thing work to put it under? Or does it
I
not?
think it does some kind of help. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Or pillows.
Without a pillow.
My cousin was able to get a hold of her boyfriend again, and hearing the panic and sobbing, got concerned and decided to drive over and take a look. Okay, thank you. We stay on the phone with him as he pulls up to my house and he says, I don't see any cars. He takes a few laps around the house and tries to peek into the windows, but he says, I don't see anyone. It's okay, just come out so you can open the door for me. We each pick up a shoe or a toy as weaponry, and we unlock the open door. But even the door felt heavy, like it didn't want us to step out into the hall. We're all scared, trying to suck up our snot and build up the nerve to step out of the room, and no one wants to go first, so all four of us try to cram through the door at the same time. We're clinging to our weapons, each other, and Jesus. As we make our way down the hall, any floor creak made us jump out of our skin. It was pure agony. The hallway felt like it stretched for miles. We made it to the kitchen, and we reached for the light switch at the same time and braced ourselves to fight. Our heart is literally pounding in our ears. We cut the lights on, and we all take a collective gasp, standing in the hallway facing the kitchen completely frozen. Each cabinet door was open, but everything inside of them was intact, not a single plate or cup out of place. To the left was the back door, and this being an older home, all the windows and doors were barred. So if anyone wanted to open the door, they would have to open the barred door first. Instead, the main glass door was wide open from the inside of the house. Okay, I just got shivers. I just got chills. That was really creepy.
Imagine that happened to you, like us.
I would pee. I'm just imagining myself
Oh
right
my
now,
God,
and I would...
dude. That's so scary.
I think even one kitchen cabinet open, which can be justified. You can say, oh, someone got a freaking cup and they forgot to close it. One would still freak me out. But like, all of them?
You know what I have?
That's what you gotta move out.
You know what I'm like scared of?
Uh-huh.
Like, what if one day like a big window in your first floor just breaks?
I thought about that too. What happens?
But like, because you need to replace it, correct?
Yeah.
Right?
But they don't replace it the same day usually.
I heard you get a giant like
What, wooden board?
metal board or something.
Okay, yeah, you gotta find something to
nail
board
gun
it.
it.
Otherwise, imagine it's just a giant
Oh
hole
my goodness.
on your wall.
Just anyone can come.
Exactly.
Even spiders and...
Even spiders, yeah. So what happened?
We couldn't move, and as we attempted to take a step forward into the terrifying silence, we forgot my cousin's boyfriend was outside, and he freaking knocked the door, sending us screaming and running in every direction. Every man for themselves at this point. How it should be. Do you think it's every man for themselves if we encounter something scary?
No.
He said,
No.
no, I'm
We
gonna
should
save you guys.
look out for each other.
Okay, we let him in, and he does a sweep of the house as we try to gather our nerves. There was no one to be found, but we could not understand how the door opened. Who opened it? How? Needless to say, none of us slept. We begged the boyfriend to stay, and we played worship music and prayed the rest of the sleepover to keep the demons at bay. Wait, did y'all do this shit? Because I did this shit.
I did that.
In Jesus' name, I rebuke you.
So you become religious?
Bro, the only times I become religious, because I grew up in a religious household. Well, my parents aren't religious, but my grandparents were super religious. Our grandpa and grandma. I was forced to go to church every Sunday. After that, the only time I ever felt me, asking for God, are you there? Was when I'm terrified, is when I have a pregnancy scare. Those 2 times. I'm like, God, if you make sure I'm not pregnant, I will go to church every Sunday. Every Sunday, I'll go back.
But
I'm
you
not
still
pregnant.
didn't.
And then I'm like, okay, God, we're good. Thank God.
Nah, but I totally understand you because I do that too.
You have pregnancy scares?
Not pregnancy, but when I get like scared, I'll be like, yo, Jesus with me, you better not come near me or something.
When do you do that? When was the last time you did that?
Last time, like
Last night?
last night. I watched something scary, yeah.
And she said they prayed the rest of the sleepover. When my parents woke up and we asked them if they heard anything, if they were pranking us, my grandma denied any involvement, and to this day, we remember the night the hairs on the back of our neck stood up. Was it collective psychosis, the devil, ghosts, actual intruders? We will never know.
That's the
Really?
parents, man. I'm telling you.
What if it's a prank?
If I'm the parent, that's what I would do.
I can see you do that.
I'm like, man, I'm sick of these kids.
I'm sick of these
They need a
sleepovers.
lesson.
These little freaking, yeah, can't be fucking doing this every day.
Because there's no way
Because
that...
once you do that, what they're gonna be too scared to do this again. Like stay up all night playing whatever game they're playing. Isn't that smart? That's kind of smart though.
That's smart.
There's gotta be parents out there who's done that, right? Like I can't be the only one.
You're probably the only one. You're probably the only one that would admit it too. I'm just saying.
That's pretty scary though. That's
We
a
don't
scary
know the
That's
answer?
terrifying.
story.
Dang.
That was a good one. I got chills on that
I
one.
give that like
I would give 9.5 out of 10.
Storytelling was amazing. Holy cow.
In 2021, when I was working at your favorite shop, favorite sandwich restaurant, do you know what I'm talking about? I'm gonna keep the location a secret because she asked me to, but she worked there and I had an interest in one of my coworkers. And let me tell you, I grew up in a very sheltered Korean Christian household. Same. So I always followed rules and I never did drugs. Not same. Okay. Okay. But since COVID hit and I was lonely and I had no friends in LA, since I moved to go to UCLA a few months before, the only place I could make friends was at work. I started talking to one of my coworkers and he was kind of quiet and nice, the mysterious vibe, you know? But he showed interest in me and was kind of flirting, so I was like, oh my god. He got me into anime and we would watch Netflix party Attack on the Titans for hours in the night. And it was very cute. At first, until I found out he was a cocaine and Xanax addict.
Yikes.
At first, I didn't think too much of it because I was kind of already emotionally attached and I wanted to help him in his recovery process. He told me and other coworkers that he was trying to quit. One night, we're hanging out with just a few other of our coworker friends, but some of them had other plans later, so it was just me and him. They left. And he asked if I wanted to go to this viewpoint he goes nearby. So I was like, sure. I was kind of nervous and excited, even though I kind of wanted to make space between him and I, because I knew his lifestyle and my lifestyle were completely opposite, and he was no good for me. But like, it's hard to stop a crush, you know? It's dark, and as I'm driving us there, we're going up this hill, and he points out the window and says, that's where someone was murdered and got his head chopped off.
Maybe he's just a true crime fan.
Maybe what?
He's just a true crime fan.
I don't believe that.
True crime?
Because
Yeah.
sometimes I'd be driving down LA with
That's
him and I'm
true.
like, oh yeah, this is where the family was murdered. And then we keep driving. I'm like, oh my god, that's where they found the
Stephanie-
hillside strangler bodies.
Stephanie knows so many countries and locations now,
Of the crimes.
but she
Yeah.
knows every places by what crime.
Yeah.
She's like, this country, this is when that crime took place. That country, this is what that
Maybe-
crime took place.
Maybe road trip with you would be fun.
Yeah,
I don't
or
know.
She'll just
scary.
point out things.
And
Yeah,
then
no.
nighttime.
Yeah.
And we're all. And the only reason we were trying to plan an Italy trip this summer was because I did a case on the monster of Florence, a serial killer in Italy. And then I was like, I'm so inspired. I want to go there. So bad. Maybe it's that. I don't think so. The story's too long for that. Okay, so then she said, what? And he was like, yeah, super nonchalant. But inside, my anxiety and fear was kicking in because it's dark and scary up there. But we get to the top, and as I'm parking my car, he was like, when we get out, pretend like you've been here before and you know the place.
What?
And I was like, what? Why? And he says, because a lot of gang members come up here and hang out, and if they notice you're new, you're gonna get mugged.
Oh my gosh.
And at this point, I was just freaking out because I've never been in a situation like this before. We get out of the car and he's like, are you scared? And I'm like,
Oh,
yeah. And then he proceeds to lead me towards a group of 3 people who are putting their guard up as we approach them. And he asks if they wanted cocaine because he's trying to sell it to them.
Jeez, she's just
Yeah.
part of a drug deal now?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I, as a super goody at the time, was freaking out and just witnessed a drug deal for the first time. LMAO.
LMAO.
Are we laughing though? I was taking him back home and I was just in shock of what just happened. I just wanted to go home, but he proceeds to call his neighbor so I can meet him and talk for a bit. The neighbor seemed cool, and while they were talking, the neighbor says something like, but if you ever asked for my help like last time? And I'm like, like which time? And the neighbor says, oh, when he called me and asked me to move a body. And then M, her crush, tries to block his mouth and shush him, but I was like, what?
What the?
Okay, she doesn't sound like that. I sound like that. She was like, what? And M just says, nothing. So we say bye, and I head home, and let me just tell you, up until that point, I have never felt such anxiety and fear in my entire life until the night of the party. What? You're still going to parties with this guy? Okay, fast forward to March 2021, me, M, the crush, and a few other of my coworkers were having a little party at a coworker's apartment, and he was very high on coke. After another very, very, very alarming and serious event that took place before when I was hanging out with him, I was definitely trying to distance myself from him. But I won't include that story here or else this story would get too long. So after the little dead body thing, something else happened.
And then now this is the party. So this is like the third strike, third red flag. We were around the dining table and he was getting into an argument with this one girl and everyone could tell that he was getting heated. Everyone went to other places of the house and it was just me, him, and another coworker, and he was whispering to me, should I call someone I know that could beat all of them up? And I of course said no, and he kept looking through his contacts and was saying, I know people that could beat the shit out of all these people here. And I was feeling very uncomfortable. So I moved towards the living room to talk to another girl until we heard M yelling, I'ma fuck you up, I will kill you, on the phone over and over and over again. Honestly, I was pretty scared. But he hung up and starts walking towards me and the girl. And he said, insert name, come here. And asked the other girl to show us to her room. She said, sure. And he grabbed my hand and took us to her room. And oh my God, I was getting a very, very bad feeling. We were in her room and she was showing us around and her cat was laying on the bed. No, don't f with the cat. We were saying how cute it was and M said, oh, it's so cute. What if I just slit its throat?
Oh man, that's a future like
murder.
Yeah, every time someone who like tortures or kills cats, it's just I don't know what it is. Right? How many killer have we talked about that?
Like practically all of them.
They all kill cats.
So if they even hit the cat, they're murdered.
Not hit the cat. They
torture.
They torture and kill the cats. They get satisfaction when seeing animals like scream and get tortured. Like that's just not a normal human reaction.
Like normal human reaction is like, oh, cat.
I don't even think you can like withstand that type of like scene.
Right.
Yeah.
To hear the scream, to hear the noise, to feel it, like, but they love it.
I just knew like one or two people in my life that were really mean to animals. Just a bad vibe from both of them. Like mean to animals. Not like, oh, I'm scared of dogs, or I'm scared of cats, or I'm allergic, or I just don't really vibe with them. But like straight up mean. And would say things like, oh, what if I just kicked her right now? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Wonder what happened to them. Probably killing people. I'm kidding. I'm not. I'm scared of that person. So the girl obviously laughed awkwardly and said, don't do that. And he kept saying how he wanted to slit its throat. I was so uncomfortable and so nervous, but the girl was like, I'm gonna go get some water. And I didn't want to be alone in the same room as him, so I was like, me too. But M tried to stop me and was like, wait. Insert her name, don't go. And I said, I'm just gonna go get water. And we left and we were both like, what the fork? I stayed in the kitchen and I told everyone that I was gonna leave because I just had a bad feeling. And I was about to leave with another friend. We walked towards the bedroom where M was and we heard yelling behind the door and he was screaming, I'm gonna fuck you up. But my friend knocked on the door and told him that we were leaving and I said, bye. And M's like, wait, you're leaving? And I said, yeah, I'm gonna give, my friend a ride. And he said, but what about me? Well, I gotta give this friend a ride. And he said, why doesn't your friend go ride with someone else and you take me? And I made up some excuse because I'm not trying to be anywhere near this guy by myself. And he seemed annoyed that I was leaving, but I got out of there as fast as I could and thank God I did it because then later, my coworkers called saying that M threatened to kill all of them and slit their throats and then fainted and started seizing on the floor. He regained consciousness and they all went together to take him home, but he was so high he started getting angry at them and accusing them of taking his cocaine, which none of them did. He snorted it all by himself. While this is all taking place, M was calling me over and over and over again, leaving me multiple voicemails and texting me, let's watch a movie together, acting like nothing just happened. While my friend was on the phone with me, freaking out about how he was threatening to kill all of them. After that, I was just so traumatized and shocked that I experienced something like this, and I'm just glad that I left before anything got worse. It was one of those moments that I instinctively knew if I didn't get out right now, something really bad would have happened to me. I've definitely learned my lesson about people, boundaries, and now I find it really hard to trust people and their intentions. I gotta take a bite because of that. Wow.
So that was like what, 4 red flags?
No.
I think
They also work together.
Yeah, they work together. I know. But like I think if anyone knows somebody who just want to torture animals and stuff, that's just
or even thinks it's funny to talk about it.
Yeah, just like keep your distance.
That was creepy.
I'm just glad she didn't go through anything worse,
Because he sounds like the type that would attempt or murder his significant others. If this is what he's saying about people at a party,
Like if you get super angry, you can't control it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This is story number 3. I will tell you the story of my trauma and why I hate crowded places. I kind of grew up in the Middle East, and my family transferred there when I was a kid because of my father's work. When I was 13 years old, I first experienced my disappointment and disgust in humanity as a child. There are those moments that just stick with you. Like, I think I can name like 3 moments where I was like, oh my God, is this humanity? And like in a genuine experience where you just sit there all day thinking about life. Because you're like, there's no way. She was 13. She said that we were in a souk, an Arabic market, looking for a gift for my family friend. I mean, my whole family, my father, mother, and older brother. We were all busy looking for a gift over the counter when I suddenly feel a hand touch my behind. I was wearing a knee-length skirt at the time, and I was very girly and feminine. So when I felt it, I turned around and saw the guy just walking past the crowd, so I immediately told my parents. They told me I looked so pale and was about to cry. But because there were a lot of people, I couldn't exactly point to them who did it. So we ended up letting it go. After a while, it happened again. And then I turned around and it was the same guy, so I immediately told my father this time. There was panic in my eyes, I was shaking, but again, we weren't able to get the guy. So I thought my parents let it go. Then the place was less crowded, and the 3rd time it happened, but when I looked around in panic to look for my parents, I saw that my dad rushed and grabbed the guy's collar. He was watching me from behind and hiding, so her dad was hiding, waiting for this guy to do it again.
Wow.
So my father caught the guy right then and there at that moment, but the guy still denied it. My father is the most proper person I know, and I never saw him get angry and get involved in any sort of physical altercation. I lost it and I cried and I was shaking. From there, it was all the way to the car, like just shaking and crying. That was the first time I got to experience so much hate towards guys, and I developed trauma that every time someone is near my back or even walks behind me, I still get panic attacks. I can't go to any crowded places. I never went back to that place again. I spent 2 years with those panic attacks until I went back to the Philippines to study for college, and maybe because it's totally different, I rarely get panic attacks. But my course required an on-the-job training, and every summer vacation, we always went back to the Middle East for vacations and be with our parents. And every time I walk out of the airport, the feeling of uneasiness and disgust suddenly comes back. I'm assuming it's because when you have trauma, it's just like associated with the place and not because it's the Middle East. You guys get it. Just by walking out of the airport, I get goosebumps and I'm scared. But my family are all there, so I have no choice really, and never really told my parents how I feel. So then the second time it happened, we were in an interview inside a firm for our on-the-job training. I was with my brother because we were taking the same course. When we were in the manager's office for an interview, they asked my brother to take a computer exam and left me alone with the manager inside of his office. Then and there, he asks me to have a drawing exam, and when I finish, he asks me to sit next to him and explain what I drew. So I moved a bit closer, but not right next to him, but he moves closer facing my side. And then I start explaining what I'm drawing, and he starts touching my back and my thigh and told me not to be fucking nervous. I wanted to scream that time, but I froze and I was shaking. I was looking at the door, maybe someone will come and save me, but nothing. And he continued to touch me. And then my brother came when he finished his exam, and he suddenly moves back to his desk, and everything happened so fast. We left the company. They told us they'll call us when we start. When we reach the car, then and only then, I start bawling my eyes out. My brother doesn't know what happened and why I'm crying. He calls our mom and told her why I'm crying and won't speak. And when we reach our house, I just hug my mom and continue to cry, and I was shaking when I told them what would happen. Then, of course, they called the office and told them everything and told them we won't be coming there to have our training. I developed severe trauma that I can't even ride a bus. Without my mom beside me, I can't stand in public alone. I can't go to crowded places and everything. I stopped wearing skirts. Then years passed after I graduated from my 5-year course, and we went back to the Middle East again for good to be with my family again. I'm in a much better place now, well, mentally, getting better. Thank you for listening, and I really like watching you. I feel like somewhat I am not alone with all my anxiety, that someone out there can understand how I feel. Listen, I'm sure everyone with a uterus or everyone that identifies as a woman out there is feeling the rage with the news of Roe v. Wade, and this is just like stirring it up. This story is really stirring up that rage, isn't it? Wow. I get that too, though, and I'm sure a lot of people might agree with this, but when you're in like a really tight or crowded subway or bus, obviously you don't want to be like a a drama queen, but sometimes you'll have random experiences where you're like, it's not that cramped. Like, why is this person literally pushing up against me? Like, it's not that fucking cramped. Like, I'm not dry humping the person in front of me, so why are you behind me pushing up so close against me? Like, you have those moments where you're like, but then you can't really say anything because everyone else would say, oh, but the bus is really crowded. Crazy.
You think like most girls can relate to
Yeah.
this experience?
For sure.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was 13.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't someone know if
Yeah.
they look kind of underage?
Yeah.
Right?
But that guy doesn't care,
Right,
obviously,
right,
about
right.
anything. It's so scary. So the fourth story. I write this in retrospect with a good 5 years since the incident took place. It happened when I was studying for my degree in Bachelor's of English. This was my first time away from home, and I had joined this girls' hostel. The community that I grew up in was heavily Christian, and I was Christian influenced, and consequently, I was in this hostel that was called as a center for discipleship training. It was ironic ring to it in retrospect. There were so many odd rules in place, and a large one from the list is to-dos. Was to have study hour, wherein a particular hour or two was entirely dedicated to books, and phones were taken away and placed in the main girl's room, who was basically the monitor of the wing or the section. So the hostel had 2 buildings, and one of them was a safe enough building with high walls and a gate. The other one in question was an old rundown house with low walls and a gate that was virtually useless when it comes to safety and security. I come from a country that was previously colonized by the British, and the city that I was studying in was heavily influenced by British styles. This building belonged to that era, which meant that it was a very old house. Oddly, the supposed power of God was supposed to keep us safe. I scoff at that now. There have been stories told to us as juniors and freshmen about people, especially men, coming in to steal undergarments and other such things left out to dry. There were even disgusting tales of people sneaking in and taking a dump in the toilets without ever flushing, or even outside in the grounds. They were scary and even funny stories, but that's all that it meant to me at the time. Stories! Until it happened to me. One night, my roommate and I were sitting together, and our phones had been taken away for that said study hour. To explain this incident clear, it's important to note the layout of the building. I'm getting indigestion. It's a lot of suspense.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I don't know why, like, reading it in real time, it's so much suspense. The hall was dark, and my room was at the corner, which you could only get to if you made a second turn in the hall that was already pretty dark with dim lighting. Unless you know the layout of the floor, you would have no idea that it existed. It really was the forgotten corner, and the room was very small. Besides the gate, you would have to go down the stairs to the second door on the right, which led to the hallway that I talked about earlier. The hall had a door that led outside, and it was kept locked at night. Anyway, back to our room. The 2 of us were very, very tired, and so without meaning to, we both fell asleep. The lights were still on, and my door was closed but unlocked, as we were meaning to get our phones later on. I was later told that one of the girls had come in to leave our phones, and she closed the door behind her. Then, in the middle of the night, I woke up due to the faintest sounds, and thankfully I was very, very light sleeper. The softest sounds, like a phone buzzing near my pillow, would wake me up, and it had been that way since I was young. This night, as I woke up, I was feeling very disoriented, and the room was dark. I adjusted to the darkness, and as I looked around the room, my eyes fell to the foot of my bed, and I stared as I saw this crouched, dark figure. For a moment, I was confused, and I thought it was my roommate. The lights I had kept on were now off, and I thought maybe she had climbed down from the bunk bed to close it. As I sat up on the bed, I called her name out, and the figure froze. It stopped moving completely. This is when I sleepily reached out my hand to touch her, and I placed it on what was the head of the intruder. My body jolted. My roommate had long hair, and if I was not mistaken, which I was not, I had touched a head with short hair, like a prickly buzz cut of a guy.
Oh my god, just got goosebumps.
This is when my heart starts to race. This was a guy who was at the foot of my bed. My fight, flight, freeze response was always to freeze, and I'm not a screamer. But the voice inside me told me to scream. So I screamed at the top of my lungs, which woke up all the girls that were in the adjacent rooms. They switched on their lights as my roommate woke up from the top bunk. From what I could see in the shadow of the night, I saw that he did not even scramble. He simply got up and sprinted out of the room in the lightest steps I have ever heard.
Holy cow. The guy is experienced.
This is so creepy. Oh my god. Okay, the floor was made of wooden boards, and they made a lot of sound even if people simply walked on it. And this guy literally sprinted out of the room with the lightest footsteps. And when other girls came out into the hall, I started to run into the hall as well. And some of them tried to chase him down the street, which honestly might have been a bad idea if he was carrying any weapon, but he got away. As we were in the hall stunned, I realized that I was only wearing a t-shirt to bed with no pants or shorts, and the reason why I had gotten up in the night was because someone was shuffling and shifting my blankets at the foot of the bed. The possibilities of what could have happened and what he was trying to do still sends shivers down my spine. What if he was trying to molest me or rape me? What if he was carrying a knife? I had even touched his head. I remembered that the lights were on, and this meant that he had seen everything in the light before switching it off and inching to the foot of my bed. I was a broke student then, and all I had was a little change in my purse, which he had taken. As we discussed the hall outside, we saw that he had literally pushed all the laundry that had been left drying in 4 or 5 lines in the hallway, which we often did because the city we lived had so many rainy days. He had pushed it aside to make sure he had a clear path to run out and escape. With further investigation, we also learned that he must have come in through the hostel during the day when there was little or no one and kept the window next to the main door of the hall closed but unhooked so that he could come in at night and open the door through the window
This is
as
too
it was right
much.
next to it.
So crazy.
What's worse than that, he must have studied the layout of the floor and known that there was a room there. Otherwise, no one would have found it. In the morning, I told the warden. It's so stupid and completely not my fault, but I felt like I was guilty because I had slept off and left the door unlocked. But the real culprit was the hostel and the authorities because they didn't even try to secure the building.
Yeah.
This unlearning that it was not my fault took me a while, but now I can narrate the experience without shaking like a leaf. In the community that I grew up in, contacting the police was basically non-existent and never occurred to anyone. I know it's bad, but that's how things are here.
Oh my god, these are traumatizing.
First of all, this is totally the hostel's fault. 100%. But I get what she's saying. It's really hard to not blame it on yourself.
So what do you, that guy is probably an experienced, what is it, like a voyeur or?
This probably.
This is like lifetime trauma.
And obviously, there's no way you can do this in a hostel or anywhere where you don't have full control. But a place like your own apartment or your own house, something that I read and we've been following for like years now is anytime anybody comes over, it could be like someone we trust, we check every window and every door
When they leave.
when they leave. Every window and every door.
Because sometimes they can leave it open for later.
Either on purpose or not for purpose. Like it could literally be someone I love and trust and they open a window and forget to lock it after they close it.
Right.
Or it could be someone who leaves it unlocked on purpose. Which like, I mean, sure, the alarms are still gonna go off, but someone's still gonna be in your house. So this is story number 5. Oh my god, my story got lost and I gotta do it again. This happened when I was in the 4th grade. Little 10-year-old me. So when I was younger, my parents wouldn't trust me with the sewing machine, but they would trust me with the needle and thread at the time because I was very much into stitching clothes for my little Barbie. One day, while running around, I didn't realize it, but I dropped a few of the needles on the carpet. And while I was running around, one of the needles penetrated my foot.
Oh, ouch.
Horror story ends there for me. That would have been my horror. I looked at my foot after that and I saw the needle hanging out. So I pulled it to only find half a needle in my hand. I put my foot on the floor to try and take a step, only to be in excruciating pain. So I walked to my parents' room and I showed them half the needle and I had the evidence that there was something wrong. But they didn't believe me and said it's nothing. But every step I took, it was pure agony. I felt so much pain. So 10 days go by. And I've lived with this pain for 10 days. And on the 10th day, my foot was trying to swell, but no one would believe me. And during those 10 days, I went to school, I played in PE, I did everything, and I even formed a very bad habit of walking on the side of my foot. It was very odd, and I kept telling everyone around me about the pain, but no one would believe me. Then on the 10th day, you visibly see my foot swelling, so I showed my mother. She starts to second guess herself and said, yeah, let's just get an x-ray so I can prove you wrong. I was like, okay. In the moment, I wanted to be very wrong because I was told that if there's something in my foot, I would have to get surgery. And 10-year-old me obviously didn't want surgery.
See, that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of time you don't believe the other party because it sounds ridiculous. So
Yeah.
either parents or the time that I swear a gum was stuck in my throat, I accidentally swallowed a gum and it was stuck in my throat. And then later I took a Dayquil or something and it was stuck to it.
With the gum.
Yes.
God
So it was like
dang.
stuck in my throat. We did go to get x-ray and stuff and they say they didn't find anything. But I swear to God, it was there for a while.
Oh, you didn't see anything?
They didn't see it.
Then
But
what?
I can feel it. I can feel
Maybe
it.
you were just tired that
No. It was, I swear. Anyways.
Yeah.
Hey, I was not opposed to you going to the hospital though. We get to the hospital and they take my x-ray. I'm waiting outside. 15 minutes later, my mom is called to pick up the results. Only to find many people around an x-ray of a 10-year-old girl with a 2-centimeter needle inside her foot. The
Oh.
agony that I felt when I knew that I was right. I was so angry. I kept telling them.
2 centimeter? How much is that? Then show the camera. How much is that? 2 cm. How much is 2 cm?
Hey, hold on. I don't know.
I just
That's
kept,
crazy.
Yeah.
It got stuck in there? Oh my god.
I just kept telling them, I told you so, I told you so. I could see the guilt on my parents' face. They were in utter shock. I would have lost all faith in humanity that day, and especially the people that brought me into this world should have been protecting me. I was in horror. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, and because it had been 10 days, I was at high risk of tetanus. So they had to rush me to a bigger hospital and get this needle out of my foot ASAP. So we dropped my mom back at home because my dad knew that she couldn't handle this. She was crying and wailing the whole time. Listen, my mom does that and I'm like, who's sick, me or you? Who's sick? Me or you? Me! Let me cry. It's my time to shine. Thank you. And she was wailing the whole way and I was so angry. I was basically speechless. So in the car, right to the bigger hospital, my father is telling me in the car about his experiences with the things that got into like his fingers, like splinters and all those things. But this is very different.
Splinter.
Nowhere close.
This was a needle and it's metal. They said that this was metal and had been in my body for 10 days and I'm young and they can already see my foot swelling. It was scary. And my father kept reassuring me that it's going to be a 10-minute surgery. They're just going to give you a little cut, move side to side, and then they take it out. Just shimmy it out. We get to the hospital. They didn't even have time to prep me for surgery. They had to get this thing out ASAP. Every second counted because it had been so many days. Now when I tell you, when they gave me the injection to numb my foot, that was one of the worst pains I had ever felt in my life. Ooh, I'm just imagining it because there's not a lot of fat down there. Yeah, it's so sensitive.
Pain.
Swollen and stuff. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I had to get some shots in my butt recently. And I'm just imagining that same shot in my foot.
Butt didn't hurt though, right?
I cried.
Really?
I cried. The nurse called me, oh, big baby. Literally to my face. And like, she had to do one on each cheek. And after one, she literally stared at me in just pure shock for a second. She was just like,
Stephanie was like, do I have to take the other one?
yeah. Like, I like a lopsided ass. It's fine. I'll leave out of here limping with just one. Okay, so my father had to hold me down because of how much it hurt, and I kept screaming and shouting. They started operating on me in a bed in a public room with other patients in it. I was lying there playing a soccer game on my dad's phone.
Okay.
I don't know what's a more bad bitch. The doctors that are just like, let me do the operation here. Okay. And I kept asking at the surgery, I kept asking, did it start yet?
Did it start yet?
And no one was telling me the proper answers. So I slightly got up and I looked, only to find so many cotton swabs and gauze filled with blood. I slowly laid back down and I already accepted my fate. Like, this had to happen. I was so scared I kept crying, and I even became a spectacle for all the other medical students that were watching this surgery. That was which was told to me that it was going to be a 10-minute surgery. Ended up being a 3-hour surgery.
Hey, the dad lied.
And by the time they found the needle, it had gone so deep into my foot because I had walked on my foot, because I had been playing sports on my foot, because all the adults that I kept telling I was in pain ignored me and kept telling me to push through the repercussions of what was the needle. It traveled further and further into my foot. And when they finally found it, the numbing started to wear off. Still, they had to re-inject me with more numbing. But I can feel that. And when they took the needle out and it broke. So they had to dig in deeper to get the other half of the pain and agony I felt and PTSD. I couldn't even touch a needle for 10 years. And if anything sharp ever touched my body, I would just obsess over that area. On and on, just to check if something was in my finger or in my hand, because I was traumatized and I was scared. And now that I'm 25, I still catch myself walking on the side of my foot because I couldn't properly walk for a month after surgery. Things like pens and pencils, Anything too sharp, I can't touch them because I was so scared. If only they had listened to me because I could have avoided all of this. But my parents have the same kind of PTSD. They don't let needles out of their sight. They don't do staple pins anywhere. And honestly, I forgive them. They were just trying to navigate life as best as possible. But yeah, it was a very scary situation. I could have died, but I'm okay. Love you guys, bye.
Yay! She's alive.
Wow! Also, some fun things that happened during me after surgery. My dad fainted because seeing me in pain caused him so much stress he almost passed out. And when I got home, I was showered with gifts and my favorite foods, and everyone came to visit me, and it was nice.
Hey, happy ending.
Hey, that's a real phobia though. Scared of sharp subject. You guys know that?
Are you not scared?
I'm scared of
No,
needles.
but there's people who can literally look at not even
they
needles.
freak out.
They look at anything somewhat
Yeah.
pointy, like somewhat pointy. They get scared. They can't face it. I read someone who's scared of even like triangles.
I'm sorry.
Is she talking about you?
Stop, I'm literally gonna get canceled.
Why?
But like, just imagine me walking up to that someone with a piece of paper and a triangle, and I'm like, what's the angle of this triangle? And they're just fucking themselves, and I have no idea that they're scared of triangles, and I'm just like, what's wrong? Is everything okay today? And I just keep asking.
But you didn't know.
I don't know. And I'm like, are you okay? Did something happen? And I just keep coming closer with my stupid ass piece of triangle. Are you okay?
That's cruel.
And no, because I don't know.
Right.
Sorry.
Does that mean they're scared of pizza?
Stop.
They don't eat pizza?
Right.
And
I think this
also-
would be Stephanie's number one fear out of all the
Like
stories.
hospital stuff, shots?
Just needles and shots. What do you think? Is this scary?
I agree.
But honestly, you're such an admirable person, because if this happened to me, oh my God, I would never let my parents live another day, every single day.
Well, the parents fainted.
I understand,
dad
but
passed
if
out.
I'm like, Mom, I want Hot Pockets for breakfast, and she's like, no, you need to eat some vegetables, I would say, I can't even fucking walk because of you. Do you know what happened to me? I would say that. Every day. Every day until I'm 60. Last story. Me, a 20-year-old female, was almost kidnapped by a sex trafficking ring. The names have all been changed for privacy. When I was 16, I was living in Spain and had been for about 2 years at this point. Karaoke nights were pretty popular. The guy that in Korea, I met him at a karaoke bar. Okay, sorry. Creepy. Karaoke nights were a pretty popular thing at restaurants and bars in the expat areas. I used to go to one around the corner from where I lived pretty much every weekend. The lady that organized the karaoke at this particular restaurant was practically a mentor to me, so it became a routine to go. I was called up to sing every hour or so, more like a guest than a customer. So at this point, I knew most of the patrons and the locals. At some point in 2017, around early fall, I saw a few unfamiliar faces. It was a group of 3 that introduced themselves as mother, daughter, and daughter's boyfriend. They didn't speak any Spanish, and only the boyfriend Nathan spoke English. They were friendly, the daughter Olive especially so. Olive looked to me around 16 at most, but they introduced her to be around 18. She smoked, drank, had tattoos, so I figured she must have just had a baby face or something. They were excited to have someone so close to Olive's age in the area, and her mother Sandra was kind of eager for both of us to be friends. I didn't see much issue with it. I was a lonely, bullied teenager, and Olive was one of the bubbliest girls I had ever met. It was hard not to like her. I saw them quite a few times after that. They'd compliment my singing, Olive would hug me, Nathan would make conversation, and Sandra would smile and observe, mostly. I was pretty comfortable around them. My dad or my granddad were always with me anyway, so I felt no need to worry. Around the 5th time of seeing them, Sandra invited me around to their place to hang out, with Olive, around noon the next day. Now, in all honesty, I wasn't that crazy on the idea just because I was shy and we didn't really have much to talk about. But I liked Olive, and after getting approval from my dad, we agreed to meet. At around 1 p.m. the next day, I was with my dad and granddad waiting in the square beside the restaurant that I sang at. My dad thought to just drop me off, but we couldn't be sure how long I'd be waiting, so we decided to sit and eat at a cafe just next door. We ate, we waited, and waited some more, and I swore I saw Sandra come around the corner during our wait. At the time, I thought maybe I had her confused with someone else, but Sandra was rather tall, so it was hard to mistake her. In the end, they never showed. And after a while, I thought maybe they had just forgotten. But I swear, looking back, she seemed annoyed when she saw my dad waiting with them. It's hard to say. I didn't want to think too much into it. Either way, I saw them at karaoke a few times after, and things seemed to get a little weird after that. An example of that would be when I was singing one night. Nathan came up to me after my performance, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, "You sing well. You'll be popular since you're cute and you can sing." Maybe I'm
What?
thinking too much into it, but the wording made me feel a little sick. Weirdest of all was the last night I saw them in person. At karaoke like usual, I was sitting at a table with my dad waiting for my turn to sing when Nathan came up to me. He looked kind of frantic, told me that he, Sandra, and Olive had been drinking at the bar just next door when Olive stepped out to take a phone call and never came back. He saw me next door and he didn't know what else to do. I live not 10 minutes away, so he thought I knew the area. Maybe I could go outside and search for her with him. It was 10 o'clock at night and pitch black outside. As worried I was for Olive and as comfortable as I was around them, I couldn't say yes to that. He was frustrated, visibly so, pleaded with me again, and when he got the same answer, he stormed away. I wasn't really bothered at the time. I understood his worry, and I was quickly distracted by the music. Eventually, when the crowd thinned, my dad and I joined a table with a bunch of old English retirees to make conversation. I was sitting next to an older woman, maybe 60s, that I had never met before. I was chatting with her casually when Nathan came in and he asked again if I would help. This was like an hour after he had first asked. I said no politely and he left. The lady beside me, bless her heart, took my hand and held it for the rest of the night, told me she didn't trust him and that she would stay with me for the rest of the night until I went home. Nathan came back not 10 minutes later, calm, and told me I found her and left. That's when I finally realized something wasn't right. I kept quiet about my concerns for the night. I didn't want to be taken as dramatic. Luckily for me, my dad spoke up first. He told me he felt off, felt like something about that family just wasn't right. So he did some digging. Now, my dad isn't some sort of M16 hacker or anything like that, but he's well adversed in computers, and when he wants to find something, he will. I forgot about it for a while until a week later. It was maybe around 11 p.m. I was about to go to bed, and he called me into his room to check his computer. My dad had spent the last week searching the Interpol registry for missing children. He warned me that it might be a coincidence and don't freak out. On the website was a missing poster and details. It was a girl around 11 years old that had been missing from Russia for about 4 years. You can see where I'm going with this. There's no way to confirm it, but the girl on that poster was the spitting image of Olive. And all at once, I started overthinking how happy she was to see me and how reserved she was to go back to Sandra and Nathan, how young she looked despite how old they claimed she was, and how controlling both Nathan and Sandra would be over her. My dad kicked things off after that. Whether he was overreacting or not, neither of us cared as long as we were on the safe side. He sent me back to England for a month to live with my aunt while he dealt with it. He called the police, contacted Interpol, the whole shebang. I didn't hear much about it while I was in the UK, not until I came back. My dad didn't want me to freak out while I was away. Sandra, Olive, and Nathan disappeared once the police started showing up at the restaurant. No one saw them again. Everyone that worked there seemed to think it was a big fuss for nothing, but they didn't see what I saw. Scariest of all, I think, was my dad was pulled aside by one of the police after being informed Sandra and the others were gone. In Spain at the time, there was a huge issue with an underground Russian sex trafficking ring. They didn't want us to freak out as it couldn't be confirmed, but the police suspected that this was an attempted abduction. A girl had been taken just 2 weeks prior to when Olive and the others started to show up. Nothing ended up coming of the investigation. I moved back to England the next year, so any news of the trafficking ring just sort of fizzled out. I don't know if we were just overthinking it. I don't know if that girl on the poster was really Olive. But whenever I think back on it, it scares me. What if I had gone to their house that day? What if I had gone to find Olive that night? What if we had been sooner and could have finally taken Olive away from her situation? I have a lot of guilt.
Holy moly.
First of all, you can't have guilt because in the end, when you did find out, you did your best, and the people that should have guilt are the people that took her. It can't be you. But that's terrifying. Holy.
At least she tried.
That's so scary.
Yeah. Yeah, sex trafficking terrifies me.
I mean, that's everywhere too.
Yeah.
It's not
that's
just
so
in Spain.
scary. And the fact that you feel like it's so far away.
It's not.
It could be so close to you. That's
So
happening.
close. There's probably so many people sex trafficked just in your local American city right now. That's so scary. And I'm always so scared because I think my gut is good, but in the world that we live in today, all it takes is one day where you don't listen to your gut. Like one small little thing, you don't listen to your gut.
Or your gut doesn't even sense it.
I don't know if I should be terrified or filled with rage. Because I'm feeling a little bit of both, I'm gonna be honest. Well, that was horrifying. Holy shit. Lock your doors, lock your windows, and you know what? At this point, lock your kitchen cabinets. And don't go anywhere. You know, don't go to parties with your coworkers. Don't go to the market. Wow.
Just don't go anywhere.
Tonight, at least. And then tomorrow, we put on our big girl panties and we go fuck up the world, okay? Because fuck this shit. But tonight, we should take it easy. Do like a self-care night, you know what I mean? Like do a little bubble bath, put some glitter on our faces, and be all cute and feminine. And then tomorrow, we go fuck shit up. So, stay strong. I love you. Make sure to check out expressvpn.com/biz to find out how you can get 3 months free. Because like I said, scary world out there. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.